Very happy to be joined by this man, Chris Mortensen, ESPN. Get his thoughts on a lot of things this morning. But first of all, Chris, really appreciate the time. How are you?
I'm good, guys. How are you doing? Happy Hanukkah, happy holidays, and Merry Christmas. And as Chris Berman would say, let me be the first to wish you a Happy New Year when we get there.
That sounds good. That sounds good, Chris. We're glad to have you aboard, and obviously we've respected your opinion for so long, and we here in Denver are trying to figure out what we got, Chris, with this young quarterback, and you've seen so many come and go over the years. Where Drew Lock is right now, this particular season, but coming off his best game of the year and maybe the best game of his young career, what do you think you need to see, or Broncos fans and the coaching staff needs to see out of him the last 3 games to propel into 2021?
Well, I'm not there every day, so I don't know what they see every day in the meeting rooms or those Zoom meetings, whatever. But I would, based off what I've seen, and I know last week, people will say that might have been his best game against the Carolina Panthers, but I don't quite understand the talk why you would move on from Drew Lock. He clearly has the physical skills. I know he's not dumb. He's athletic. He's got nice size. I kind of have the privilege of going to the Manning Passing Academy every year. I'm real close to the Manning family. And I can tell you, man, he's got the goods. And here's a little interesting side note for you. When he was at Missouri and decided he was trying to decide whether he was going to come out of Missouri, I think after his junior year or he's a redshirt sophomore. I can't remember which. But the Cleveland Browns had the first pick in the draft. And I know that John Dorsey, their general manager, basically told his owner, Jimmy Haslam, he was talking about who all the guys were, and he mentioned, Josh Allen and obviously Sam Darnold, name them, Josh Rosen. And he said, but I'll give you a name just to write down. And this was by 4 or 5 months. It was in December after John took the job with Cleveland. He said, write this name down, Drew Lock. So Drew Lock, had he come out early, at least would have been evaluated by the Browns, along with Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen and those guys, as the first pick in the draft. That's how highly John Dorsey, one of the best football evaluators of this generation, thought of him. And I would say move forward. You got another offensive coordinator here with Pat Shurmur. Having Mike Munchak there is just a key to letting this thing develop and unfold. And he's got talent. Mike Shanahan was another guy who was with me at that camp. We watched Drew. It wasn't just Drew throwing, but you get to watch him for about 4 days doing a lot of things. And you say, okay, he's got a chance to be a franchise guy.
What I'm really amazed, you mentioned the Peyton Manning, the Manning Family Passing Academy. I am stunned at what kind of role that academy plays in evaluating young quarterbacks anymore. I mean, it sounds like it's bigger than the Senior Bowl. Like, this is a place, if you make it there, you can make it in the NFL.
That's an overstatement, and by the way, I'm accustomed to those myself. So the Manning Passing Academy is a place where really they invite 1,000 to 1,200 high school kids to come and work every day, and then the college guys are invited to be their counselors, and they actually, it's no fun. Well, let me say this: being in Thibodaux, Louisiana, in late June or July is a challenge in itself. But the advantage that these guys have, they try to invite the best in the country. The Manning family does, is that you get to watch them how they interact, how they do their job, because it's a job. You could ask Drew. He would tell you that. But then when they get there, they put these guys, Peyton and Eli, put these guys through pretty significant hour-long workout, and then they'll do that every day. And that's kind of where I fell in love with Josh Allen, by the way, because I think when I got there, it was Thursday was it was a windy day, 20-25 mile per hour crosswinds, and Josh Allen just zipped the ball past everybody. Everybody who was there, anybody was there, and he was head and shoulders above them all. And then one day you had a perfect day. Josh Allen was great. Then you had a rainy day. Josh Allen was great. But they're working these guys out every day. And then on Saturday they get about an hour and 15 minutes where Peyton and Eli just close the door and nobody's allowed in there, and they can ask any question, and then Peyton and Eli will share all their wisdom. And if you don't take a notebook in there, you're an idiot if you're a quarterback. But that's the advantage of it. And you get some impressions coming out of there, but it isn't what makes or breaks the quarterback. It is their college tape. It is how they handle the Senior Bowl or whatever and going forward. And we just don't allow, for some reason, these guys to develop if they show promise. I mean, this guy has shown promise.
Well, and that's fascinating because that's the next thing I was going to ask you, Chris Mortensen, ESPN with us. That part of it, the time, giving it time to grow. A lot of people here are pointing to Josh Allen, who they're going to face on Saturday, the Broncos and the Bills, as a guy who, out of the gates in his NFL career, was not impressive. His numbers were bad. He turned the ball over a lot. But if you gave it time with the same offensive coordinator to grow, it really flourished. Are we too quick in the NFL to pull the trigger on things like offensive coordinators or young quarterbacks now?
Yes, but internally they know, they see the signs. Those teams internally know what a big time pro quarterback looks like. The Bills have never doubted Josh Allen. And by the way, those numbers, my apologies to analytics people, you can take those numbers and stuff them, okay? if you watch Josh in his last year at Wyoming, he had nobody to throw to. These people who are keeping track of off-target throws, they're lying, or they're deliberately adjusting their numbers to make their story fit with their analytics. Because I saw a lot of balls on target that were just flat out dropped. And in Buffalo, his rookie year was, listen, anybody would be overwhelmed, but his number is there. And even they will tell you, they got guys that weren't even on the roster last year who was in his rookie year. And so Josh Allen is an example of, if you believe he's got the right stuff, not only does it have the physical tools, but this, and by the way, the concept that you can't, a quarterback can't improve his accuracy is a joke, and I'd say that to every analyst, former coach, GM who makes that statement. There's too much evidence to the contrary.
Chris, it's so fascinating you bring that up because we are trying to put Drew Lock on a path, right? I mean, he's going to have his own path, but we look to a Josh Allen, whom obviously we watched just up the road to Wyoming in his college career, and say, man, if he could become that guy even next year or 2 years from now, that's pretty dang good because there just aren't enough Mahomes to go around. But is it fair to look at a young quarterback and try to compare him to another guy or say, boy, I sure hope his trajectory is like that guy, or we just need to let them go on their own and fail or flourish with what they do?
Well, they become unique in what they do to themselves. I mean, let's talk about the different great quarterbacks in this league. I mean, there's really a lot of them. They're different in their styles. I mean, is Aaron Rodgers like Lamar Jackson? No. I mean, or Patrick Mahomes. By the way, Patrick Mahomes only had three or four teams that loved him. That was the 10th pick in the draft, and he wasn't in. But that conversation about when the Bears took Mitchell Trubisky, Mahomes wasn't even in that conversation. It was him or Deshaun Watson. Well, by the way, there's another one. They all are unique to their styles, but it's a question of maturity, mental toughness, and football intellect, IQ, work ethic, all the things you would expect and want in a quarterback. They come in different sizes and different types. Russell Wilson, and so I think they're good people internally can recognize whether a person has the traits or not. Paxton Lynch, and he might be a nice kid. But I heard enough about him going into the draft that I was shocked at how many teams wanted to take a chance on him.
I don't get this, Mort.
I was shocked that Drew Lock fell to the second round.
Mort, I don't get it because you heard the things many people. If everybody heard this stuff, how the hell is he drafted in the first round?
Talk about Paxton?
Yeah. Paxton, I mean, if everybody hears about...
Well, anytime you see a big guy who can throw it and spin it like he can, I guess so, but there's other traits that make up a quarterback, and I never like this. I will admit there's some bias. 6'7" bothers me a little bit, right? I mean, The other thing, by the way, is I think that people don't really think about is that quarterbacks are football players. They're not just quarterbacks. That's why Josh Allen is also a cut above a lot of guys. He's a football player. I'm not just talking about his running ability, but there's a toughness. The Steelers the other night, the Bills' offensive line was having trouble with Cam Hayward, and he's getting hit and this and that. Yeah, as a rookie, that stuff is going to make you. Things are going to become blurry as you're trying to see the field. But but a good football player, or I should say this, a good quarterback is a good football player too.
Chris, we don't get to talk to you enough. We certainly appreciate your time. Vic had his battle. I guess I want to know how you're feeling. How you doing, Chris?
Listen, I'm doing well. Still on the cancer journey, but I'm doing really well with it. I do have a quick question. It's more important than anything we've talked about.
Sure.
So I have a fantasy football team in a very competitive ESPN league. I'm in the semifinals, and I lost Mike Gesicki as my tight end. Is Vanette or anybody there worth the tight end and give me 10 points in a fantasy game?
Noah Fant, get him this week. He's eager to get back on the field again.
See, Vic doesn't play very much fantasy football. He doesn't know that Noah Fant will not be available in this fantasy league. He's not going to be there.
He's already taken, so that's fine. That's why Noah Fant's going to be back out there. I expect it, by the way, to be a good game. I do not think this is a lock win for the Buffalo Bills. And I guess the bad news, the good news, whatever, the Bills don't think it's a lock for them. So I'm looking forward to seeing the game Saturday.
Hey, I got one last one, Mort, before we go, because you've been around the league a long time. You talked to a lot of people. The ownership situation has been, needless to say, a difficult one here in Denver with the future. What do you think this team, who do you think is going to run this team in 2 or 3 years? Have you heard any whispers?
I have not. I just know that the league has been more patient. The league has had the situation with Tennessee, the Titans, and very patient for about 5 years with that. And finally they settled it and got it aligned to the way it was supposed to be. But I have not heard anything. If I remember to ask, I'll text your producer and we'll talk about it sometime.
Awesome.
Well, Mort, appreciate your time this morning, and I'm the dumb one on this show, so I'm going to ask a dumb question as we let you go. I came up with this idea. Well, we'll see when I ask you this.
Hang on. Wait 10 seconds.
Yeah, I have this idea that on Wild Card Weekend, the Thursday before Wild Card Weekend, you take the Jets and the Jags and you have them play each other, and the winner gets the number 1 overall pick and drafts Trevor Lawrence. Good idea or bad idea?
Oh, I love the idea.
Oh, yes. Yes, Mort.
Oh, you know what? All my Jets fans at ESPN would just die. That's why I love the idea. I have to be honest with you.
Chris Mortensen, ESPN.
Great stuff.
Really
man,
appreciate the time this morning, Mortensen. Thank you.
All right, guys, take care. Thanks for having me on.
You bet.